Since the dawn of human spaceflight, more than 500 humans have traveled to space from 40 different nationalities, 15 countries with independent spaceflight capability, all at an astronomical cost, $62 billion spent every year, one third of which NASA is spending alone. But that's not where the casualty ends. 30 people have already died. Space is dangerous and expensive, yet for some reason, we are in pursuit for it without any stop. The question is, why? Welcome to the Space Race. Hello everyone, my name is Vesak Nair and you are watching Sapientia Island. In 1945, US launched 2 atomic warheads on Japan. From the ashes of the Second World War rose 2 superpowers with opposing ideologies, the capitalist United States and the communist Soviet Union. Both were paranoid of each other's intentions, kickstarting the infamous Cold War. Both started testing and stockpiling nuclear weapons. But our nuclear powers wanted to deliver the weapons fast and effectively, as it was a long-distance rivalry. Rockets can only target just few hundred miles. The answer? Launch rocket through space. The result? Ballistic missiles. And that leads to a new idea. What if rockets can spy on the enemy? And the ballistic missile race turned into getting the first satellite into space, initiating the space race. Soviet won the first round. On October 4, 1957, they launched the first satellite, Sputnik 1, a ball just weighing 184 pounds with 4 antennas. Just took 1 watt to run its entire radio transmitter, sending shockwaves across the entire world. And Americans were terrified. USSR was leading the race 1-0 against US. Eisenhower responded by creating a new agency, NASA, and NASA raised the stakes. They wanted to send the first human into space. But the question was, can human body survive space flight? Human body is not designed to withstand the G-force required for the acceleration. Also, there is no pressure in space, which means your blood can freeze or it can vaporize. Also, at re-entry, the temperature reaches 5000 Fahrenheit, which is as half as the temperature of sun. So as expected, both the space programs tested the rigors on the animals first. During 1959, NASA finalizes 7 military pilots called the Mercury 7 for the human spaceflight program. Smart and brave, they were the quintessential American heroes. And Soviet Union came with their own squad led by Major Yuri Gagarin, the poster boy of Soviet Union. Both programs suffered some serious setback, but Major Yuri Gagarin became the first man to reach space after spending 100 minutes there. In the space race, Soviet was now leading 2 to USA 0. 3 weeks later, NASA also sent Alan Shepard into space and got the much needed moral boost. During the early 60s, tensions between Soviet and United States was escalating. In 1961, Soviet Union commissioned the Berlin Wall. In 1962, the Cold War reached its pinnacle in the form of Cuban Missile Crisis. Despite all this, during the early 60s, NASA was going ahead with the Apollo program with the stated objective of launching a man onto the moon. But things took a bad shape in 1963 when John F. Kennedy was assassinated and NASA lost its biggest ally. Public interest waned following the assassination. People were questioning the rising cost and called the space program a misguided priority. US also had other problems, the Vietnam War. Meanwhile, Soviets were scoring a string of space firsts. Luna 2 became the first object to reach the moon. Valentina Tereshkova became the first woman to travel to space. Alexei Leonov became the first person to conduct a spacewalk. Soviet Union was now leading the race 5-0, and things was only about to get more bitter for United States. In 1967, a test went drastically wrong. A cabin fire on board Apollo 1 during the launch rehearsal test killed all the 3 astronauts on board instantly. But NASA was determined. NASA appointed Werner von Braun as head of the Apollo program. Von Braun, a former Nazi, was Hitler's favorite rocket scientist. He invented the world's first ballistic rocket, the B-2. Under von Braun, development work started for Saturn V, the world's most powerful rocket till this day. At 363 feet, it is taller than the Statue of Liberty and weighs roughly 6 million pounds. It generated a thrust equal to 34 million units, greater than 43 jumbo jets put together. Its lift capability to lower Earth orbit is equivalent to 310,000 pounds. 1968 was a turbulent year for both the nations. Yuri Gagarin died in a plane crash, while Soviet Union crushed a violent rebellion in Czech Republic. For Americans, it was the Vietnam War. But 1968 was also a successful year for NASA. Apollo 8 just orbited the moon. It was an unprecedented success. Apollo 8 also clicked the first pic of Earth from the moon, the world famous Earthrise. In the race to the moon, US was now leading against the Soviet by 1-0. 7 months later, on board Apollo 11, Neil Armstrong and Edwin Aldrin made history by becoming the first humans to walk on the moon. In the race to the moon, US was now leading 2-0 against the Soviets, and NASA was all set to dominate the competition from here on. In a span of 3 years, they launched 10 more space missions. USSR completely abandoned their moon program, rather focusing on the development of the first space station. In 1986, USSR launched Mir. Competition turned into cooperation after the fall of Soviet Union. In 1998, 5 space agencies banded together to launch the International Space Station, hosting astronauts from more than 10 countries. These 5 agencies were NASA, Roscosmos, Canadian Space Agency, European Space Agency, and JAXA. International Space Station is the most expensive structure ever built at a massive $720 billion, wider than 4 football stadiums. The first crew was launched in the year 2000. One of the members of those crew was Mr. Sergei Kiriakov. An interesting fact about Sergei Kiriakov: Sergei was on board Mir when Soviet Union collapsed into 15 different nations. He was stranded there for a year. The country which promised to bring him back doesn't exist. After spending an year aboard the Mir station, he finally came back to Kazakhstan, which was part of the erstwhile Soviet Union. Sergei Kiriakov, the last citizen of the Soviet Union, was the last remnant of the foregone space race. The last 2 decades saw the rise of new space powers: CNSA, JAXA, ISRO, and ESA, the most notable among the space agencies. The last decade also saw the rise of private space companies. By the time you are watching this clip, SpaceX has already launched 2 US astronauts into space. After a gap of 50 years, humanity has planned to return to the moon, while NASA has announced their most ambitious plan ever. The race to Mars is on. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share. What do you think is the future of space race? Please leave your valuable feedback in the comment section. Let me know what else you like to watch. Thank you.